Happy Monday. We're back. It's Dr. Jason Dean, and it's that time. It's 4 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. He's been texting me crazy talk all afternoon. Just kidding. Morley Robbins is back.
Hi, Jason.
I wasn't prepared for the topic for today. When you texted me, I was like, wait, oh, that's interesting.
It's
How are
different. I mean, I'm doing fine.
You doing fine?
Spent some, we spent some time in your fair state. Met some interesting people. Um, you may have heard of the Fulbright Scholarship.
I have heard that.
Yes. Uh, you and I would never win that. Would be one step down from the Rhodes Scholar, but I met a descendant of the guy who founded the scholarship, and he's a bee therapist. Really interesting guy. His name is John Fulbright, and he works with the bee venom. It was mind blowing.
Really?
Really, very, yeah. Um, they're very important creatures, as we know,
Yes.
but their venom is really very therapeutic on many different levels. And what really piqued my curiosity when he said he's helping people with hormone imbalance using bee therapy, I'm like, wait a minute. I started doing some research. And
Hormone
like,
imbalance with bee therapy, venom therapy, essentially.
well, the thing is, you got to understand that hormones are made in a non-active state, and then they get activated. They're signaling peptides, and so it's fascinating. And so the article I think I sent you was about this peptide called melatonin, which is like over half of the venom is made up of this peptide melatonin. Well, it's made in a pre-pro hormone state. Well, when you see pre-pro hormone, you know you're talking about the PAM enzyme. There's only one way to turn something
This is
from
right
a
up your alley, wasn't it?
oh my God, I was going nuts. And I was trying to explain it to this guy, and he was like, "Ooh." But I was like, wait a minute, maybe that's part of the therapy is to get this natural endogenous form of peptide activation back into our system. It was very interesting, fascinating guy.
Well, you made me just think of something. So here's the article. Let me bring this up real quick for you. The
Mhm.
pharmacological effect of mechanisms of bee venom and its main components, recent progress and perspective. Okay. And then here is the the melatonin, a
Melatonin.
natural peptide from bee venom which induces apoptosis in human leukemia cells. That's quite interesting. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this or not, and I've only dove into this superficially. I've not dove deeper. The FDA, federal government, etc., they are pushing back hard on peptide therapies.
Oh, I know, big time.
And I'm like, that means there's something to this whole thing.
That means it's a real deal.
That means it's a real deal. Like
Right.
they're shutting people down left and right for taking peptides BP 157, and I don't know all of them. Again, I'm novice in it, but as soon as I realized that, it was funny. I go, I need to learn about this, and I started having some random people jump out and they'll like send me some information. And I had a product company that I was looking at and talking to, just curiosity, and I'm like, that means this is real. Like that, if they don't like this probably has some major healing component at a very deep level.
Absolutely. There are only 4,700 signaling peptides.
Is that it?
No, I'm lying. It's 4,699. I exaggerate. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, and not all of those require alpha amidation activation. Alpha amidation is an odd way of saying activation. And so in the literature, they'll say that over half of the signaling peptides need to be alpha amidated. Over half.
But
Well, that could be 99%.
But Morley, if for example, let's play a hypothetical. I'm not going to use either eye because I don't want to put that on us. But
Right.
if a person who was in the natural healing found
Right.
out tomorrow that they had a leukemia issue, right?
Sure.
Why would they not immediately go to this to at least try it, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a no-brainer. Like, and we're not even saying it's going to work, but you're going to try something that's this level of potential healing. You wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna avoid all of the natural stuff, and I'm not gonna look at this experimental safe protocol. I'm just gonna go right for the chemo.
Right. Exactly. Right. Right. No, but this is tapping into the genius of Mother Nature.
Right.
That's
Unbelievable.
that's that's what I thought was pretty cool about it.
Really fascinating. I'll just ask the question before you get to it.
Yeah.
Is there a connection between peptides and copper?
How much time do we have? A couple days, right? No, it's the enzyme to activate has two coppers inside it. Other than that, there's no connection.
No connection whatsoever other than that.
And what I'm intrigued by is, so why are the bees able to get away with being in an environment that has GMO, and they seem to be working just fine, but we're struggling? What is
That's a
pain?
that's a good interesting question.
Right. I mean, they're hanging out with all the plants, right? The
They are.
palm, and yet
Glyphosate,
glyphosate, they got to be exposed to it, and yet
of course they are.
now we don't know what this guy was saying. He said in a typical hive, you might lose 500 bees a day. I'm like, what? That
They
sounds like
lose
a lot.
500 bees a day in a hive?
Yeah, it's a lot of bees. It sounds like
How
a lot
many
of
are
bees.
there in general?
There must be thousands. He said, but that's not. He said that's not that much. I'm
That's
like,
not a lot?
that sounds like a lot because we're used to seeing one or two, right?
My God, 500. I feel like the whole world's going to end.
I know. We're right there with Einstein. You got 4 years now, and so I don't know. I was. It's like it was a parallel universe that we act like we know what it's about. Oh, bees, yeah, they make honey, and he was like, you don't begin to understand what's going on.
Well, then I have
I
a, I
was,
have a follow-up.
yeah,
And now, not that you're an expert in this, because I don't know. Maybe you are. That's
no,
fine.
no.
Then are we really on the edge of bee extinction?
Well, that's the question. I was sitting there the whole time thinking, how are the bees getting away with it, and we're struggling. I
Because
think,
everyone I
well,
ever hear
here's
from
where I
is
think
like, we're almost dead because the bees are going to be gone.
well, right, but here's where I think it's different. They're not feeding bees iron, right?
Not directly.
No, no, but they're not being goosed up with iron IVs. They're not being goosed up with iron supplements. They're not being goosed up with hybridized food that's now taking in more iron than it was ever designed for.
Well, it's the same thing. The same thing could be said for, and I don't want to take the burden off of what we need to do as humans. However, we're a very sick population in general, right?
Right.
However, our domesticated animals are also very sick,
Yep.
meaning in general they don't live as long. Lots of cancer in dogs, lots of weird diseases in dogs and cats. I don't know all the animals that are in homes, but I know dogs specifically. They also vaccinate the hell out of them, right? But wild animals don't have this. The wild animals aren't sick and dropping all over the place, right? So,
No. Right.
but Morley, other than the food, they're in the same environment we are, and quite honestly, they're in more of a toxic environment because they don't have necessarily shelters over their head at night. Like they're out in the open air, breathing in whatever out there. They're drinking the water, etc.
Right.
And they're not dropping like. I mean, obviously we have certain instances of, but it's usually a direct toxicity issue. But wild animals aren't
Yep.
having a problem yet. Domesticated are having the problem.
Well, no, I think the exposure to the domesticated animal, including you and me, is pretty significant. I don't think we realize how many different forms of toxins we're exposed to.
Right.
And that's, we're not here to depress people. It's just, I was absolutely mesmerized by the impact that these creatures have in helping heal people. And I don't know, you think about bee pollen, it's a great source of
It's a
B
great.
vitamins,
Yep.
you know. Um,
How do you feel
the
about
bee,
honey?
I'd
I
say
get the question. I get
sparingly.
that question all the time, and I'm like, I don't take it personally because I still working on some stuff, and it sends my blood sugar not happy.
Okay. I think the challenge we've got now is source. Is it
Okay.
real? There's a lot of pretend honey out there.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah. So I think if you know you've got a hive in your backyard and you know it's there, I think the darker the honey, the more minerals it's going to have. But
Okay.
I would just be very judicious. I would use it sparingly. And
Yeah.
I
I. You've had raw honey before, right? You tasted that.
yeah, oh yeah,
I remember back in the day when I was a Starbucks insane person on the road, and I remember opening up. I was trying to be healthier, so I'd get a little honey packet, right? Open it up, and you taste it. And I remember going, "There's no way that's honey. That's
no
that's some sort of strangely flavored glucose syrup of some kind."
honey-like substance. Yeah, but not,
Like it didn't even taste like raw honey,
yeah,
or even
no,
or even conventional honey.
no, it doesn't have the same consistency. No, it's very different.
But raw honey, but
Starbucks would have been your first clue.
oh no, 100%. I mean, it was funny when I first like this was years and years and years ago, and I'm like that
Yeah,
doesn't taste. It's kind of like the you know about the olive oil situation too, right? Like
yeah,
it's not like very little olive oil actually on the store shelves. It's all garbage seed oils put together, and
right, right.
yeah, what a mess we've gotten ourselves into, Morley.
Is there a parachute?
Oh God. Speaking of that, I'm not going to go deep into this, but did
Uh-oh.
you did you
Should I sit down?
did you get the oh shit, what's his name? Who comes out Monday? The Monday report.
Ben? Yeah,
Fulford, yeah, Ben. Did you hear the prediction?
I don't subscribe to his. I just get the first couple
The
pages,
first
and
couple
then,
of
and then it's like dun dun dun.
so so there's a boxer who went a little nuts last week on Twitter with some of his posts. Ryan Garcia, I think his name is.
Okay.
And he stated, now I'm not announcing this that we agree. I'm just saying because Morley and I read some of the same stuff behind the scenes, and that's why we chat about it off and on.
We're curious. We're
We're
curious.
curious people. So he said he put out two tweets. He deleted one, and then he kept a less significant one, and basically said, "Earthquake, bad, California, June."
Whoa.
Now,
Whoa. No, I didn't hear anything about this.
I have no reason to believe that necessarily. Obviously, I keep an eye on it because he has said some other stuff that was very true too. Fulford came out and said something very, very similar. Now, I don't know if Fulford was taking it from him
Yeah.
or he
Yeah.
has something else, but
He said it was
something
going to
about
involve earthquake.
June and a major earthquake.
Right.
I don't
It's
know.
like it's like
Aren't
day
you
by
having fun with all
day.
this?
Well, it's gotten surreal now. It's just like every day is a new development, and it's kind of like a theater of the absurd now. I mean, I don't know what's real anymore, and it's really kind of bizarre, to be honest.
Let me ask you a deep philosophical question.
Uh-oh. It's not about bees, right?
Well, it's tied to that. It's tied to copper.
Yeah.
I personally believe in not only a physical symbiotic relationship with our planet, but I also believe in a spiritual symbiotic relationship with our planet, right?
Right.
As we have drifted away from our morals and values in general, not obviously all of us, right? But in general,
Right. Yeah.
as we have polluted our lands in bees, right?
Yeah.
As we have depleted our copper levels, and increased our iron levels, right?
Right.
Is it possible, as we've drifted away from that, the planet is a little pissed and we're going to go
Oh,
through
yeah.
a massive shift, physical and spiritual proportion, because of our falling away from what is natural, for lack of a better word?
I've thought that for years. No, I think there's going to be a cleansing of some sort. And I think that, I mean, I believe that the earth is a sentient being. It
I'm
knows
going to
what's
send you a
going
link
on.
to this.
Yeah.
This is Edgar Casey's work,
Okay, sure. Oh,
and he
yeah.
talks of what I'm kind of talking about.
Does he? I didn't know he did that.
Well,
That's fascinating.
it's almost a Sodom and Gomorrah situation. Like, you can fall away all you want, but that falling away has a energetic ramification to it.
Right. No question about it. Um, I mean, is it absolutely going to happen? I don't know. But could it? It absolutely, it makes sense conceptually that when you think of an organism the size of the earth, it's got to have some intelligence behind it.
Of course.
It just, I can't think of it any other way. And and so it's just, there's going to be a leveling. There's going to be some kind of leveling of the forces. And it seems that we're at one end of a pendulum, and it's going to start to swing back. It's got to, in order to save the planet.
That's how I view it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I was just asked this. I was just asked a question on another show, and they asked me kind of similar thing about that, and I go, guys, like, I mean, I come at this more of a spiritual standpoint, but I believe healthcare and everything health we talk about is directly
Right.
connected to this, because it's natural laws, and you can only do so much before our world, our universe, our planet, our environment, etc. They don't lose. Like, like, we're just here, right? We're having this spiritual experience. We're trying to figure out our health care and trying to take care of ourselves. Some are not. But the way this universe works, the way this planet works, the way the energies and the magnetism and everything work, like, we don't beat it. Let's just say that. Like,
No.
it will
We
win
can't.
over us. Like, at the end of the day, we will take it so far and it will kick us off.
Well, and I think about the last century, the changes that have been made in our environment in the last 100 years is
Right?
staggering, absolutely staggering. At least in the context of how we would perceive it. Or
Correct.
maybe in the course of time, it's not that big a deal. I kind of think it is. And there's always going to be a quid pro quo. There's going to be a price to pay,
Sure.
and certainly people's health is a factor,
Yeah.
but it could affect um, a lot more than that.
And I think I've asked this of you before, but probably in a different way. With your studies, because across my studies, I have some books, I have some literature online that I've found that's definitely 1800s, maybe even some before that are health-related studies, right? Health-related, either
Yeah.
literature, written word, books, whatever it is. That data is not even in the same planet as the data we're given today. And I'm not saying that their data was much more accurate back then than our garbage today. You probably see a very radical difference between, let's say, even late 1800s, early 1900s than 2020s or whatever. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think the difference that I've noted, and maybe we've even talked about this, but back then, back in the day, they were curious. They were trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. They wanted to understand. They wanted to get to the center of the truth.
Medical doctors they were researching. They wanted information.
Right. Absolutely. And I happened to read an article about research that was done in Europe in the 1800s about the spleen, and I thought that's pretty cool. Well, then I found an article that had all the research in it. It was like, it blew my mind, and they were doing some pretty cool stuff with it. And it's just their understanding of the body was completely different than what we know today. And now, were they completely accurate? No, we do know some new information, but the spin on it now is, how can we make money? Back then, they were really trying to understand, how do we understand this mechanism and what do we do to stop it?
Right.
Everything is about a patent, a patent. Got to have a patent.
Patent.
Got to have a patent. Got to make a pill. Got to do this. And
Patent.
so, yeah.
I'm looking over your two texts. The first one, peptides are activated naturally. This process depends on the PAM enzyme, which is compromised in humans due to glyphosate. Just a theory. Well, so my mind has been pulled into this glyphosate thing a little bit recently, but now I want to know your data based on this. It was my daughter's in gymnastics now, and so
Yeah.
we've been watching some stuff on TV, and my wife was in sports medicine at the Division I college level, and she also played professional soccer and some football. And
Okay.
she tells me all the time, she won't stop saying it. She's like, you do realize when someone blows out a knee, back in the day, like the 80s, 90s, you did not blow out a knee unless some linebacker took your knee out.
Oh, sure. Right.
Like, she's like, you need you need a impact
Right.
to blast your joint to blow out ACL, MCL, PCL, et cetera, or even meniscus, right?
Right.
Versus today, we're seeing
You can
kids
sneeze.
jump off of something, land, and they blow out a knee. Like, there's zero integrity to the structure of the joint, right? And she's like, and she obviously supports, she's like, that's glyphosate. That is the destruction of the joint, the deletion of the minerals, the deletion of the copper, the magnesium, et cetera. And I see they're promoting like, oh, we've got to put glycine back in with some like collagen. And my wife and I are both like, you can do that all day long, but you're missing the source of the problem.
Exactly. No, you got, and it's many enzymes like that. That the one you're talking about is lysyl oxidase, which knits collagen and elastin together, and that's what gives the tissue its integrity.
Correct.
45% of our body is connective tissue. That's a lot of cells. 45%. The cartilage, the ligaments, the tendons, the arteries.
45%?
Yes, 45%.
That's a lot. That's a lot of integrity being yanked away.
Exactly. And then another way of thinking about integrity is color. Color is very important. So being able to have strength and flexibility, that's one source of integrity. Being able to generate energy, that's another source of integrity. But the color is the organ inside your body, the right color. A friend just sent me.
I remember you saying that about spleen.
Yeah. A friend just sent me pictures of a deer that they just shot. They live up in Idaho. And she's taking the carcass apart. She said, would you like to see the pictures of the organs? I said, I would love to. And it's really cool, Jason. The heart is really red. The liver
That like Florida State Seminole burgundy red kind of color.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the spleen was really purple. And
Right.
it was mind blowing. But that's an animal in the wild, hopefully not eating a lot of GMO corn, and doing just fine. Thank you very much. So the concept of integrity has great significance at a physiological level, and the ability of the connective tissue to do its job is just one measure of that integrity. But people don't think about that. They're not thinking about what color is my spleen, and what does it mean that hydrogen peroxide that we produce all the time. What is hydrogen peroxide? It's a bleach. It bleaches. So if you're making hydrogen peroxide and not making water to release energy, you got a problem because it's going to affect the integrity of your tissue, the integrity of the function of the tissue, the color of the tissue, the energy of the tissue. The signaling is a sign of integrity. Does that make sense?
100%. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, you know what word just popped in my head?
What?
Proprioception.
Yeah, it's a great word.
There is
I'll let
not
you, the chiropractor, explain what that is.
there is not one person that walks into a chiropractic office today, including myself, who has proper proprioception.
Okay. So
And what I mean
explain.
by that, I'll give to everybody the fifth. I'll give everybody the laboratory retriever explanation, so you don't look at me with the cocked head. Basically, do you know where you are in space and time? And what I mean by that is, if you're standing there, okay, you can stand there, great. Well, you have a certain posture about your standing, right? Which is one sign, and most people like hunched over, so the proprioception's off. But two, one of the best tests is like, for example, when you're standing there and you close your eyes, right? And when you're closing your eyes, you bring up, you can't see me do it, but you bring up your right foot and bend your knee, and you hold it there with your eyes open. Then you close your eyes. And how long can you stay there with your eyes closed without tipping over or swaying or whatever?
Right.
Then you try the next. And because ultimately, if our structural integrity is there and the proprioception is there, you should be perfectly well balanced, right?
Right. That's right.
It's horrible today for everybody, Morley. But part of that is, are your joints in alignment? Is your spine in alignment? Are you feeling your way through this time and space? And most people are not, but also that's a breakdown of the integrity of the tissues.
Yeah, and I think it's also the signaling. The tissue
Yes,
is signaling to adjacent tissue, and it's not, the signaling is not pure.
correct.
I think
100%.
there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of static in our signaling now.
100%. It's 50%. I mean, let's just call it 50. 50% of the body's connective tissue. That's that. I mean, you said 45%, but
Right, 45, but still, it's about half.
Morley, that like changes my world a little when I think about that.
Well, yeah, it's again, the article that I found just before we came on. It's about neuromelanin,
Okay.
and when I see titles like this, those are the ones that really catch my eye. One of the most overlooked molecules in modern medicine, not a spectator. When an author takes the time to come up with a clever title, you know they've thought this thing through. Well,
Yeah.
it's really important to get their sense of it. You know, like when Douglas Kell, um, his signature article is from 2005, and the title is Iron Behaving Badly. Like, whoa, what does he mean by that? You want to dive into that article, but there, I would say, out of the 10,000 that I've read, maybe 100 have really provocative, engaging titles. But those are the ones that you really want to read because you're going to learn something that you hadn't thought of before.
Okay.
It's fun. So the thing is, the spleen, it's the hidden
Mm-hmm.
organ, the placenta, the forgotten organ. Now we see neuromelanin, the overlooked molecule.
Mm-hmm.
This is code for people to realize this is really important. This issue that we're talking about with connective tissue. Who's thinking about connective tissue? Nobody I know.
Most people aren't. Most
No.
practitioners aren't. There's a small percentage out there who's really focused on structure, but
Right.
but I know most of them, Morley, they're focused on the proper placement or whatever. They're not looking at the physiology of the structure.
No, not at all. And it's the fundamentals that will reveal the integrity of the organism. So
Fascinating. Fascinating.
and so then you're talking about um, needing an adjustment. Did your adjustment hold?
There's a deep question.
Right? And people think nothing of going to see their chiropractor a couple times a week,
Oh
but
God.
their adjustment's not holding. Why is it not holding? Because it's lax. Why is it lax? Oh, because the enzyme that gives integrity to the tissue is missing its copper,
Not you're
missing its.
See, you're making my like, see how I get uncomfortable over here when you start talking about this?
I'm
You
not
know
trying.
why?
Why?
Because I even have friends in this world out there who are like, oh, we're going to adjust you twice a week, 50 weeks, just, or the person who's like, hey, and I understand, like, it's a recurring revenue. I get it. That's what they're based on. That's how they're, I don't know I like it, but I get it, right? Versus, that's not what that's not what our founders of the profession ever.
No, they would do one adjustment. They would do one adjustment and the person was fine.
And I'll admit, I get patients now. I can't fix them in 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 adjustments. And some of them, they don't want to do the other stuff. And so I go, okay, I'll adjust you. And the only reason I'll tell them, the only reason I'm doing this is because I have to keep you, like, I don't want you on drugs and surgery. So I'm going to just adjust you. Right. But just know, like, I'm not going to fix this because the structural integrity is not there to fix it. 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Morley, I had somebody come in and they wanted to get chiropractic. And I said, I can't do that. I'm not able to. What do you mean? Well, I'm looking at your case, and if I adjust you, it's going to go back out in under 5 minutes. And I still am going to have to charge you for the full visit. You're going to leave the office, and it's going to be out of alignment. And I will have made money, but I won't be feeling good about the fact that you're right back out. I said, and quite honestly, your problems are not structural. Your problems are solely physiological. And so I could
emotional as well.
Right. And I go, I could sell you a bunch of shit. That's not hard to do. But then I have an ethical problem on my end because I'm selling you the wrong thing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. Yeah.
I'm like, we have a physiological, food, emotional. We have a whole bunch of problems here, but moving your spine is not at the I mean, your spine needs to be moved. I said, but let's fix some other stuff so that I can get the spine to hold.
The spine is the tip of the iceberg.
100%.
Yeah. And that's not, and I think hopefully people know how,
your wife's a chiropractor. You don't dislike chiropractic.
I am about chiropractic, Dr. Liz. Yeah,
your wife is a chiropractor. This is not Morley hating on chiropractic. It's just we're looking at truth.
No, I firmly believe in chiropractic. I think that what I've come to realize after 15 years of studying this and living this and helping people is so much of it's emotional. Yes. That's where it starts. And then the emotion starts to affect energy, and then that starts to affect, and then it's going to show up in the spine.
Yes.
And then it's going to magnify because of the spine. But I'm not convinced it all starts at the spine. But I know there's some compelling cases that would argue otherwise.
Ready for my unpopular opinion?
I can't wait.
I've had doctors and patients look at me like I'm out of my mind. And I go, you're not going to fix scoliosis physically. What do you mean? We have great techniques. I go, you have great techniques to move it. You're not going to fix it because at the end of the day, it's going to go back. Right. I go, you might be able to wear something that holds it in a better spot, but let's deal with reality. It is a emotional, spiritual situation. How do I know? Because literally in chiropractic school, you guys taught us that muscles and cells hold on to emotions, whether it's this lifetime or some other lifetime. That's up to you. That's up to the person to believe what they want to believe. But either way, even if you only believe this lifetime, pain and trauma go into the cells. Muscles have cells, and muscles hold on to it very well. So you have muscles surrounding the spine and holding it up on different levels. Yep. And so now you have all these kids who are dealing with massive, and most of them are, you can see that they're in something, they have some traumas, they have some whatever, and the muscles yanking that spine out of place. There's something else going on. I'm not going to try to even prove it because it's not a category I want to be in, but I'm telling you right now, scoliosis primarily is a spiritual and emotional issue.
That's fascinating. I've never thought of it that way. Because in the animal world, you know what it's called?
No.
Swayback.
Swayback?
It's especially for sheep, they get what's called swayback, and it is
It's like
exactly
it sways to one side or the other.
and how do vets correct it?
I don't know. Kill them?
No, they
I
put
don't know.
copper in their feed.
What? What? No, what?
Uh huh.
They
Absolutely.
put copper in their feet?
Feed
Oh,
in their
feed. I'm sorry.
feed,
Feed.
and then the muscles
It
start
starts
to stretch.
relaxing.
Yeah,
No shit.
seriously. Yeah, it was back in the 30s when they realized.
Really?
Yeah, it was in Australia when they figured this out. Yeah.
No one even talks about the copper from a scoliosis. Now I'm curious well, no, I'm wondering now when you take, no one in chiropractic is putting copper back in scoliosis
I
patients.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Tell me about it.
No, again, we're back to the Morley problem.
You, that you said the Morley problem?
Yeah.
They don't know that one.
Well, I thought we talked about that.
We have a Morley problem. Morley's telling too much truth out there.
Morley's telling the truth. Morley's got an answer, and not everybody likes it. And
Morley,
it's
selling one bottle of copper will not sell 5 other supplements. I can tell you that much right now.
yeah,
I'm just messing with you.
I know. Yeah. Well, that's why we're here, right?
That's right.
That's the first question we get asked. Okay, let me see your balance sheet, right? Let me see your income statement.
It's so funny. Everyone who says we have a Morley problem has a really, really big asset side balance sheet.
You've noticed that, right?
Lots of revenue on that left side.
Oh my gosh. Well, no, I
Copper
think
in
it's,
the. I'm not past the copper in the sheep.
no, I get it. Listen, it's fascinating, and I'm trying to think of the Australian um, veterinarian who figured it out, and then he influenced the physicians down there. I mean, it's a really interesting story. Uh, Dale, I'll find his name. I'll get his name for you, because um, it was a serious problem down there, in part because Australia has very little copper in their soil, and
Really?
they were raising a lot of sheep down there. It's a lot of land. Their their land it's vastly more available than ours. They're not. They have 25 million people, and the continent's slightly bigger than the U.S.
It's
So
gigantic.
it's gigantic. It actually is. It's almost like it's like if you took the United States and flipped it upside down, and then just made it about 10% bigger. That's Australia.
Do they have vast deficiencies down there? Do they have poor soil or is it good soil?
Um, it's kind of a mixed bag. The outback is just it's like desert,
Mm.
but they do have good pasture land. But copper is a particularly notable mineral that's not as prevalent as it should be, or
They
as a farmer would want.
they have another issue down there too, which I don't know if I'm sure this plays into it. I just don't know how much. They have Pine Gap down there, and they
They
are
have a
pushing. They have Pine Gap down there.
pine gap. I'm not sure I know that.
They are Australia is probably. I would say it's the most on the planet. I don't have this as data, but the most over radiated place like Pine Gap. It's essentially HARP times 1,000 or more. They are
I did.
blasted all the time.
I've never heard that term.
Yeah, yeah. It's Pine Gap is. There's some crazy conspiracies down there
Wow.
regarding what's actually there, what's underground, what Pine Gap is doing. I mean, it's high levels of radiation.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about that.
but that's interesting. They're man, this copper in the spine now
Yep.
got
Well,
me intrigued.
well, this the cerebral spinal fluid. That's
Mm-hmm.
a very, very important fluid, right? It's made in the choroid plexus, right? Can't make it without copper. Ceruloplasmin plays a critical role in the cerebral spinal fluid,
Ah, that magnetism.
right? So I was one of the things we did when we were in Fort Lauderdale. We went to a center that has that would be the closest thing to a med bed I've ever been to, and it's basically it's think
Do
of it
the
as
E system?
no, we've been to E systems.
Okay.
We've done that. This is literally on a it was like a lounge chair, really
Okay.
comfortable, very comfortable chair, um, and it's PEMF
Yep.
on steroids, and it was really cool, and it got me thinking about um, there's it's a known fact that when astronauts are in space, they're affected by that, and it's the way it's always been described is that they don't have gravity up there. Well, what I think it is they don't have the electromagnetic force of the
Mm.
Earth
Yep.
that we rely on as a species. All life form relies on the electromagnetic field.
That is correct.
And I'd never thought about it in that sense. And so, as fate would have it, I had a chance to talk to the guy today who invented this bed. And he's down in South America.
Oh, wow.
Brilliant guy. And he speaks, of course, he speaks English fluently. I said, do you know how much Spanish I know? He goes, no. I said, Dos Equis. He burst out laughing. He thought that was funny. But the thing is, he was telling me that this bed, it increases the production of ATP and it neutralizes oxidative stress. Well, I'm going like the gearhead in me is like, wait a minute, dude, you're affecting the mitochondria. He said, that's exactly right. And it was just so exciting. He's an electrical engineer, and he knows this much about physiology. And I know enough about physiology to be dangerous, but I'm not an electrical engineer. So it was a very interesting conversation that we had. But it was fascinating to think about what the what the technology could be to help people with healing.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, and so now I'm digging into PEMFs and what does that mean? And is that another thing to I mean I know they're very popular, but that's an exogenous external source. Well, what if you married it with an internal source? What would that do? Would that accelerate healing? I don't know. It's kind of intriguing to think about.
So, I haven't said this publicly yet. So, but my wife got a call out of nowhere, I think a week or so ago. And her first ever chiropractor was actually looking for her sister because my sister-in-law is a naturopath in North Carolina. And
Okay.
north or south, one of the more north or south. I don't remember which side she's on. And he was looking for her because he had somebody who was dealing with something, and she kind of works in that directly, but he couldn't find her. So he was able to find my wife much easier with a Google search. So he called our office. The crazy part was, this was my wife's first ever adjusting doctor, like when she was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh wow.
so she calls him back, and she's like just having a conversation because like, oh my gosh, long time no talk, and how are you doing and everything else. And his mother, I think, had cancer, and pharma just screwed it up big time, as they always do.
Right.
He became very frustrated. He's a very smart, sciencey guy. So he left practice, went back to school, and molecular biologist.
Oh my God.
He is now working with MIT and University of Colorado at Boulder, and they are working on a lab to. I don't know what word you would use, especially in our world right now, but they're working on a way to handle cancer using electromagnetism and quantum physics.
That makes perfect sense.
Very high level. And it's funny because people are like, oh, I don't know if that's about these guys. Like, he literally went back to school to be a molecular biologist. He's working with MIT, crazy smart people.
Right.
And they are diving deep into this because they're like, at the end of the day, it's electromagnetic. It's magnetism.
It really is. And I think what's happening is we're getting too much of a good thing. So if in fact the body runs on electromagnetism, well, the most basic electromagnetic model is a potato with a nail and a copper wire,
Turning a
right?
light on.
And turn a light on, right?
So
That's our body.
simple.
That's our body, Mr. Potato Head, right? But if there's too much iron and not enough copper, then the light doesn't go on. I think that's what's happened. I think they've skewed the electromagnetic field in the body because they've gotten these metals out of sync with each other. And
It's
I'm just trying to think globally, what's the problem? The problem is we don't have the energy that we used to have. We don't have the integrity that we used to have. And there's a material difference. When I'm in a restaurant and I see little kids who are like 4 and 5 years old wearing glasses,
oh,
right? So that means that their eyes are that weak
I
that they
know.
that they can't make enough energy to correct for the vision, right? And so that usually hits us when we're 40, not when we're 4. And so if it hits at 4, then you think what's going to happen when they're 12, when they go into adolescence? What other system's going to blow out? What's going to happen when they turn 40? That's what I'm wondering is, wow, they've got glasses now. What's going to happen in 35
I, I
years?
just I just saw a little girl at a restaurant the other day. He was probably like 3,
Yep.
and she had like the Coke bottle ones on.
Coke bottles, sure.
Like
Right.
I'm like, damn, like that's you're right.
And and when we were growing up, it was very rare to see that. Now you see it all the
It's
time.
everywhere.
And the other thing is people with their boots, you know, they have a shin splint from
Hmm.
running. You get back to your wife and the
Yeah.
sports medicine. You didn't have shin splints. You didn't. That didn't exist back in the 70s and 80s, even the
Dude,
90s.
we I was talking about this the other day. I'm like, we were like puking our guts up in practice, and the coach was
Right.
like, "Go harder," and you went home and you just like worked through it. Today, like, I got shin splints. I got to sit on the what?
Yeah. Every time I see it, I'm like, and there seems to be no age restriction. Somebody, when you go out, you'll inevitably see someone with a boot, and it's like, oh, that's not good. And they don't know that it takes energy to put the bone back together, and the bone broke because it didn't have enough energy. And immobilizing is not really going to help it. I mean, it's like I don't know.
Well,
Again,
look at the degenerating of teeth.
oh, that's,
They're not even getting out of toddlerhood, and the teeth are on the way out. It's
well,
unbelievable, Morley.
I'm going to be speaking at next week, next Friday. There'll be kind of a seismic shift because I've been asked to speak at the IAOMT, the Biological
Ooh,
Dentist, to tell them about copper and why it's important. And I'm like, I've only done this a couple times with professional groups, and I don't want to jinx it, but it's like I don't do well with professional groups who don't know what the heck I'm talking about. It's just like, and what I love about these conversations is that we're on the same wavelength and we can banter back and forth. But when I get into a room with a couple hundred doctors and they don't know what I'm talking about, they're very threatened by the fact that I know something they don't know. And like I found an article today, there's a protein in the eyeball and in the ligament of the teeth, um, fibrillin,
okay. I think I've heard of
Fibrill,
that.
fibrillin, and there's enzymes that break down fibrillin. They're called they're called um, matrix metalloproteinases. That means they gobble up
Hmm.
the protein. You think they might be activated by iron? So I said it to this guy. This is the guy who got me into this meeting. I said, I think you might be interested in this. And he writes back and says, and indeed I am, because it's all about this protein that nobody knows about. And but it was explaining the mechanism for periodontal disease. What isn't a disease? It's just oxidative stress on steroids. And guess what happens to the connective tissue? It loses its integrity. It's, it's all the same mechanism. It loses its strength and flexibility. It loses energy production. It loses its ability to signal. It's all the same stuff.
I have a study that I'm going to send the link to you after the show today. I'm not going to talk about it right now because I have not unveiled it yet. It's public, but I haven't talked about it yet. I'm going to bring it up on Wednesday. It is going to change. I mean, it has the potential of changing all of healthcare, like technically forever. People won't.
Wow.
It changes cardiovascular disease completely. I'll send it to you. It's out of Italy. I'll send it to you right after this. I'm going to go over it
Yeah,
on Wednesday on the regular show.
can't wait.
And I'm assuming you can tell me if it has anything to do with copper too, because I'm sure there's a copper aspect in it. But data
But
is coming out fast and furious, Morley. I mean, it's just the one good thing about this, even though it's all kind of crazy stuff. I don't think they can stop the flow of information at this point.
I think you're right.
And I think, and even if they tried to, I think we have so many people who are really have a good heart and are looking for truths.
Right. Sure.
They won't allow it to stop. Like there'll be a demand of turn our stuff back on. We're
Right.
on the path of really changing humanity for the better.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Here's a little factoid for you. How many ATP are needed to produce one heartbeat? I
I don't
think
want to go
I
too
think
low. I
about
don't
the
want to go
fact
too
that
high.
there's 10,000 mitochondria in each
One
cardiac muscle.
heartbeat.
One
Let me
heartbeat.
just let's say 1 million. I don't know.
You're close. A billion.
A billion
A billion.
ATP to create a heartbeat.
Yep.
That's nuts.
See what I don't know, and my biochemistry son would say, "Oh, Dad, it's real simple to figure how many mitochondria per pound." I know that I produce my body weight in ATP, so that's 175 pounds of ATP every day. But how many molecules is that?
God.
It's got to be a lot. But that's why the energy field is so important,
Yes.
and why they had to focus on the particle to get people spooked by the particle. Because if people knew that they could produce this energy that would knock out the pathogens, they would never have yielded.
You know what we have, Morley? We have a Morley problem. That's what we have.
That's right. Well, there's a Morley triangle. When you take a isosceles triangle and you split each triangle in thirds, it forms another triangle upside down.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm the upside down triangle.
Upside down triangle.
Yeah. And what's the triangle trying to convey? Change. I'm just trying to
Change. It's a delta.
change things. I'm just trying to create a delta to make it
Delta.
easier for people. There's too much suffering in the world.
Ugh.
But you could also argue maybe that's why we're here, is to suffer and figure our way out. I don't know. But there's a lot of suffering. I don't think that our ancestors struggled like this, but maybe they did. Maybe we've um, glamorized their lives. I know they had challenges and stress, but I don't think they had this kind of stress.
No. Somebody called it a Sierpinski triangle.
Sierpinski? Never heard that.
Either I, either I. Hold on, I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
I cannot confirm this yet, but I think, yeah, it is Sierpinski triangle. Have not confirmed it, but you may be needed for a talk in December in the Orlando area.
Oh wow, that'd be great. I'd love that.
To I'll double check and confirm that on my end, but
Yeah, that'd be fun.
could be fun, right?
To public, professional.
Professional people who are not out of their minds.
Okay. I enjoy those meetings, but they're challenging because I have to dial back.
No, this one you wouldn't have to dial back, and this one they're looking for data, so it would be more enjoyable because people would be like, "Oh my god," and there'd be good questions too.
Yeah. No, I think it'd be great. I would love it if that works out.
Cool.
That'd be
I'll
fun.
let you know.
Yeah.
Thank you as always, sir. It's good chatting with you.
Yep. Keep those bees buzzing.
Keep those bees buzzing. I love it.
And I can send you information about the sway back.
I'd love that. It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
For everybody, for Morley, Dr. Dean, it's Brave TV. I probably said that wrong, but whatever. Thanks for joining us on this wonderful Monday afternoon. Everybody have a great week, and thanks for joining us, Morley.
You bet. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Take care, guys.